Hello and a very good evening. You're watching the news tonight on Rajya Sabha television with me, Frank Pereira. Here are the headlines. Opposition parties hold a meeting. Congress accuses centre of enacting decisions that are inconveniencing people. Party claims demonetization is an attempt to write off NPAs. Government cracks down on misuse of cash withdrawal norms amid growing demand for cash banks to use indelible ink to mark people who exchange new notes. Wholesale inflation dips to 3.39% in October against 3.57% for September, drop attributed to falling food prices. Well, Prime Minister Narendra Modi today sought the opposition's cooperation in Parliament. At the all-party meeting ahead of the winter session that starts tomorrow, asserted that the government had taken the demonetization move as a crusade against corruption and black money. Leader of the opposition in the Rajya Sabha, Ghulam Nabi Azad, however, said that the move was hasty and ill-prepared. Azad also alleged that the decision to invalidate the 1,500 rupees currency notes was leaked in advance to some people, including BJP leaders. He called it probably the biggest scam. Azad said that his party was not calling for its rollback. Defending the decision, the Prime Minister said that black money and fake currency were behind cross-border terrorism, and that's the reason why all parties should come together on this issue of national interest.
माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी ने सभी पार्टियों से निवेदन किया है शीतकालीन सत्र का बहस के लिए, चर्चा के लिए पूरा उपयोग करें और राष्ट्र हित के और जन कल्याण के हित में जो मुद्दे हैं वो सारी मुद्दे उठाए और उसमें चर्चा करें।
शायद वो भारत का सबसे बड़ा स्कैम यही निकलेगा और इसकी इंक्वायरी होनी चाहिए। कैसी इंक्वायरी होगी, कौन करेगा, उसके जब चर्चा होगी पार्लियामेंट के अंदर उस वक्त उसमें हम लोग बताएंगे। ये सिलेक्टिव लीकेज हो गई। कई जगह से रिपोर्ट आ रही है कि 8 तारीख से पहले ही 2000 के नोट उन्होंने निकाल लिए।
Well, the winter session of Parliament that starts tomorrow is all set to be a stormy one. Now, a majority of the opposition parties led by the Congress met in New Delhi today to formulate a joint strategy to corner the government over its demonetization move. The government on its part prepared to defend the move, insisting that it's essential to curb black money. There are more details.
A united opposition has upped the ante against the government over its demonetization move. Leaders of as many as 10 opposition parties met in the national capital just a day ahead of the winter session to chalk out a plan to take on the government inside Parliament.
राय यही है कि कल इस सवाल को उठाएंगे कि जिस तरीके से ये पूरा सिलसिला लागू करने के लिए जो तय किया गया उससे कई सारे करोड़ों लोगों को अपनी रोजमर्रा जिंदगी में दिक्कत पहुंच रही और सरकार खुद कहती है कि ऑल्टरनेट अरेंजमेंट्स का उन्होंने पूरा इंतजाम नहीं किया। अगर ऑल्टरनेट अरेंजमेंट्स का नहीं किया तो लोगों को इस तरीके से मतलब दिक्कतों में उलझन में क्यों डाल रहे हो।
जो भी आज बात हुई है वो इतना ही है कि सारे लोगों को यूनाइटेडली एक साथ एक्ट करना, पार्लियामेंट हो चाहे बाहर हो, कल फिर बैठेंगे।
We are of the view that the issue must be raised in both the houses very strongly so that government understands the ground situation.
The parties reached a consensus on not to rush to the president on the issue, as suggested by TMC chief Mamata Banerjee.
There was a unanimous decision by everybody that to have march tomorrow is too early as an opposition party. We must have march maybe in due course of time, but not the first very day. First very day we need not to have. First we should have a discussion inside the house, inside both the houses of the parliament, and maybe if need be, then we will go to Rashtrapati.
The West Bengal Chief Minister, however, is adamant on meeting the President on the issue, irrespective of whether other parties join her or not.
Tomorrow, whoever whoever is willing to go with us, I have my 44 MPs also.
The government, however, has decided to dig in its heels and defend the exercise, arguing that it is essential to tackle the menace of black money.
The opposition which is trying to criticize it, I think is doing this more out of an attempt to sabotage this exercise because they have more to hide than to show.
But with battle lines clearly drawn between the government and a united opposition, legislative business in both houses during the winter session may be affected. With inputs from Vishal Daya, Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, the government announced on Tuesday that those who exchange cash at bank branches would receive an indelible ink mark on their fingers. The move has been initiated to avert repeated conversions. Now, the decision came after Prime Minister Narendra Modi held a second high-level review meeting on demonetization on Monday night. Here are the details. Exchanging old 500 and 1000 rupee notes will not only get you new currency but also an indelible ink mark on your finger. Economic Affairs Secretary Shantikanta Das said the move will prevent recurring conversions and reduce large crowds at bank branches. An indelible ink mark is also used during elections and contains silver nitrate that stains the skin black upon exposure to light.
Indelible ink will be used to prevent misuse of these facilities, to prevent certain syndicates and certain unscrupulous influential persons from using this facility and by from using innocent people for such multiple types of exchange of cash.
After instances of Jan Dhan accounts being used by other people to deposit unaccounted cash surfaced, the Finance Ministry set an upper limit of 50,000 rupees for deposits into these accounts. The government also assured that legitimate Jan Dhan account holders will not be subjected to any difficulty, but the source of deposits of above 50,000 rupees will be verified.
Jan Dhan account का लिमिट जो है वो है 50,000 रुपया, तो therefore up to 50,000 डिपॉजिट उसमें हो सकता है और कई सारे केसेस वो आए हैं जहाँ की 49,000 मतलब डिपॉजिट हो गए हैं, तो उसके ऊपर अभी कड़ी निगाहें हम रख रहे हैं, उसको वेरीफाई करेंगे.
Religious places receiving donations in smaller denominations have also been urged to immediately deposit the same in banks to increase currency supply. The government also ruled out any shortage in supply of essential commodities. A special task force has been set up to monitor infusion of fake currency, especially in identified areas. Kriti Mishra's report for Rajya Sabha Television. Well, as a united opposition geared up to corner the government on demonetization in Parliament, the Congress today lashed out at the centre. It criticised the decision to mark people with indelible ink to avert repeated withdrawals.
Mounting a scathing attack on the demonetization of old high-value currency notes, the Congress accused the government of causing inconvenience to people who wish to withdraw their taxed income from the banks.
They want to prevent me from exchanging my own legitimate money. What kind of government is this and what kind of policy is this?
Sibal also alleged that demonetization scheme was unveiled to write off NPAs of the public banks.
अब जो NPAs हैं, वो लगभग 6 लाख करोड़ हैं. तो ये चाहते क्या हैं कि ये जनता से पैसा लेकर उन उद्योगपतियों की एनपीए खत्म कर दे जिन्होंने देश के साथ गद्दारी की.
Besides the demonetization and its implementation, the Congress will also seek to corner the government on the issues of surgical strike and implementation of OROP in the winter session of Parliament. Kriti Mishra, Rajya Sabha TV.
Meanwhile, the Supreme Court today refused to stay the demonetization of 500 and 1,000 rupee currency notes. However, observing that people should not suffer, the Apex Court has asked the centre to file an affidavit giving details of steps taken to ease the inconvenience faced by the citizens. The bench, comprising of Chief Justice of India T.S. Thakur, asked Attorney General Mukul Rohatgi to file an affidavit about the measures already undertaken by the government and the RBI to minimize public inconvenience. The next hearing on the matter will be on November 25th. Well, Rajya Sabha TV correspondents are travelling the length and breadth of the country to bring the people's voice to you. We have reporters in Rajasthan, in Uttar Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh, Odisha and Karnataka travelling to remote areas as well as urban centres to bring you stories. Akhilesh Suman is travelling through Rajasthan. Sham Sundar will get us ground reports from Madhya Pradesh. Navikram Singh is in Uttar Pradesh getting us reports from the state's interiors. Panchanan Mishra is in Karnataka. And we have Pranav Goswami in Odisha. All these reporters will bring us the people's voices, their trials and voices of support to and for the government's move. Now Vikram Singh is in Kasganj district of Uttar Pradesh, where he spoke to a few people who had gathered outside a closed ATM as they waited for it to be refilled. Let's take a look.
We are at closed ATM in Kasganj, where people have been waiting for bank official to refill the ATM, reading the inconvenience to people. We have with few locals with us. Let's try and get their opinion. आप लोगों को किस तरीके की दिक्कतें आ रही हैं?
दिक्कत यही है कि एटीएम पर लाइन लगी रहती है, क्योंकि छोटे नोट हैं, बहुत जल्दी ख़त्म हो जाते हैं, 100 के नोट निकल रहे हैं, और बस अगर 2000 और 500 के नोट जब निकलना स्टार्ट हो जाएंगे तो दिक्कत दूर हो सकती है।
रोज के कामकाज है, उनमें क्या दिक्कत आ रही है?
कोई दिक्कत नहीं आ रही है, सारे कामकाज चल रहे हैं और हम देश के लिए ये सब सहन करने को तैयार हैं।
Meanwhile, panic has gripped Jaipur city with people feeling trapped between the government and their employers. In a new unfolding situation, employers are paying salaries in old notes and telling them to exchange those notes at the bank. This has compounded the problems of these employees.
At this time of crisis, everyone is trying to find a midway. Owners are sending their employees with the IDs to exchange notes. They are also giving salaries to the employees in the old currencies, and it is the responsibility of the employee to change notes. And third way is also that owners are giving money to the youths so that they can stand in the queue and exchange notes for them.
This group of people have been standing in line since early morning. Most of them are salaried employees who are here to exchange money and get back to work as soon as possible. Incidentally, they are here to exchange their salaries, which was paid to them in the old 500 and 1000 rupee notes.
ये पैसा कहाँ से मिला आपको?
सैलरी मिला है, 12
सैलरी मिला है, तो सैलरी आपको पुराना नोट दिया है?
पैसे नहीं चल रहे, पैसे के लिए काम भी नहीं हो रहे, इसलिए पैसे भगाने के लिए।
आप पहली बार यहाँ क्यू में खड़े हुए हैं या पहले भी खड़े हुए थे?
ये पहली बार।
People complain that this preoccupation of money exchange is taking a toll on their daily earnings. Voices against demonetization can be heard loud and clear here.
यहाँ इनको किसी को आते हुए नहीं देखा, किसी नेता को आते हुए नहीं देखा, किसी को ज्वेलरी वालों को नहीं आते देखा। आज जो आ रहे हैं ठेले वाले, गाड़ी वाले, बैलगाड़ी वाले, ये बेचारे सिटी बस में जो खड़े हैं, वो बस रुका करके भी बोलते हैं पैसे मिल जाए तो मैं ले जाऊं।
और जब तक पैसा मजदूर आदमी नहीं कमाएगा, उसको तो नहीं चाहिए। दिन भर में एक आदमी लाइन में लगेगा, वो कमाई करेगा, मजदूरी करेगा। अब मजदूरी करेगा तो मजदूर नहीं करेगा तो उसके बच्चे भूखे मरेंगे, और अगर भूखे मरेंगे तो 30 तारीख तक किसने देखा? कितनी लंबी, 1.5 महीने तो कोई पीरियड में रह सकता है कि कोई मजदूर आदमी?
Though banks have put into place several measures to ease problems faced by the public, the grouses are many. Another problem is checking and rechecking the identities of people depositing money. Akhilesh Suman's report for Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, joining me for a chat right now is our correspondent Sham Sundar from Mandla in Madhya Pradesh. Sham, what's the situation there like in Madhya Pradesh? What is the sense on the ground? What are the people saying about the demonetization move?
Well, Frank, we are in Mandla district of Madhya Pradesh, and this district is dominated by tribal population here, and we traveled almost 100 kilometers in different villages of different tribes like Gond and Bega. And let me tell you that here for livelihood, either agriculture or daily wage labor, that is the only option for these tribes. And we met many tribal people who were queuing in front of the bank, and they were not there to exchange the money, but they were told that first they have to deposit the money and then they will get new currency in few days. And because this is the winter season is starting now, and they have to prepare their fields for the new crop, and they need seeds, fertilizers like urea and DAP. So they are facing a big crisis, and we have seen entries in their passbooks because they are small saving accounts they are holding in the banks, and banking penetration is not very good in these areas. So most of the areas have cooperative banks or Grameen banks, and they don't issue checkbooks to them. And most of the farmers, especially tribal farmers, they don't have Kisan credit card. For them, it is a very, very difficult time. And many of the tribal people, they asked us when they can exempt hospitals, the airlines, and electricity department. Why fertilizer is not exempted in this case? Because they need seed and fertilizer.
Indeed, different kinds of problems coming up in different parts of the country, and in Mandla there in Madhya Pradesh, where the tribals are suffering such a problem. But Sham, while you were traveling in Madhya Pradesh, did you see long serpentine queues as we are seeing elsewhere in the country as well, outside banks and outside ATMs?
Definitely, ATMs hardly working here because not many ATMs are there in rural areas. There are small branches, kiosks of different national banks, and they deal with small money. And especially in this season, they provide small loans through cooperative banks and other, and they get wage from Manrega or such kind of things they deal with. But now we have seen people who are having 2,000 rupees or 4,000 rupees in a long queue to deposit the money, not to withdraw the money, because most of the banks, they don't have the ready cash to give 100 rupee note or 2,000 rupees note. So they are giving tokens, and they are giving 3 days or 4 days to come back, telling them to come back. Because I have seen people going back at 5 o'clock when banks were closed and given tokens. So long queues even in rural and tribal areas here.
All right, Sham Sundar, we'll have to leave to that. Thank you so much for joining us there with those inputs from Madhya Pradesh. Well, now it's time for a short break, but we'll be back with much more. Stay tuned.
Tales that inspire. Stories of social change. A salute to diversity. Promoting public discourse. Events that motivate. Inspiring the innovative spirit. Watch Rajya Sabha television documentaries.
Welcome back. You're watching Rajya Sabha television. Well, wholesale inflation dipped to 3.39% in October against 3.57% for the month of September on the back of softening prices of food items. Retail inflation also eased further to 4.20% in October as against 4.31% in September. The drop has been attributed to the fall in food prices, with food inflation declining to 4.34% in October from 5.75% the previous month. Vegetable prices witnessed deflationary pressures and stood at 9.97% in October, while pulses inflation stood at 21.80%. Overall, the food inflation basket showed moderation, with inflation at 4.34% in October as against 5.75% in September. The inflation for manufactured articles stood at 2.67% in October compared to 2.48% in the previous month. However, pulses and potatoes continued to show high prices even as their rates had come down as compared to September. The fall in WPI inflation, along with the demonetization of 500 and 1,000 rupees currency notes, could allow the Reserve Bank of India to lower its policy rates during its December review. On October 4th, the newly formed Monetary Policy Committee had cut RBI's repo rate by 25 basis points to 6.25%. Meanwhile, the markets took another blow today as the Sensex plunged over 514 points to end at nearly a 6-month low of 26,305, while the Nifty cracked below the 8,200 mark on concerns about outflows amid surging US yields and dollar gathering more steam. Currency market was hit hard with the rupee down 57 paise to a 5-month low of 67.82 against the US currency during the day. The sentiment continued to be weighed down by the government's move last week to withdraw high-value currency notes and a disappointing quarterly earning by some more blue-chip companies, brokers said. Now, the Sensex opened lower at 26,809.61 and dropped further before ending down 514.19 points, or 1.92% at 26,304.63, a level last seen on May 25th. It had lost 698.86 points on Friday on worries that US President-elect Donald Trump's impending reforms may spark outflows from emerging markets. Government data released on Friday showed that industrial production grew at just 0.7% in September, mainly due to poor show by manufacturing and mining sectors coupled with decline in capital goods output. Well, heavy firing and shelling continued for several hours as Pakistani troops targeted Indian posts along the LOC on Tuesday morning. There has been unprovoked ceasefire violation by Pakistani army in Sundarbani sector of Rajouri district of Jammu and Kashmir. Pakistani troops used mortar bombs and automatic weapons. However, Indian security forces gave a befitting reply to the Pakistani troops. There were also reports of overnight firing along the LOC in Pallanwala sector of Jammu district, Sundarbani and Nausheda sectors of Rajouri and Khadi sector of Poonch district, in which 2 persons including a Jawan were injured. Meanwhile, Army Chief General Dalbir Singh Suhag visited Udhampur district on Tuesday. He reviewed the operational preparedness along the border in the wake of the heightened tension in Indo-Pak ties. The visit comes a day after Pakistan said that the Indian Army killed 7 of its soldiers in shelling. Well, Prime Minister Narendra Modi met Israeli President Reuven Rivlin in the national capital today. Both countries issued joint statements focusing on enhancing agricultural productivity and water resources management. India and Israel also emphasized the need for greater cultural and tourism ties.
India and Israel inked agreements in the field of water resources management and agriculture following delegation-level talks between Prime Minister Narendra Modi and visiting Israeli President Reuven Rivlin. The two countries also agreed to deepen their cooperation in trade and investment and cybercrime.
Our engagement is multidimensional and wider-ranging. We are partnering in enhancing agriculture productivity and efficiency, boosting research and innovation, forging strong trade links and investment ties.
Flagging of terrorism as a global problem, Prime Minister Modi once again launched a veiled attack on Pakistan, saying one country in the neighborhood was spreading terror to other countries. Affirming support to India on countering terrorism, Israel President Rivlin said both nations are threatened because they uphold the values of freedom. Prime Minister Modi also thanked Israel for its clear support to India's permanent candidature in a reformed UN Security Council.
We recognize that terrorism is a global challenge, knows no boundaries, and has extensive links with other forms of organized crime. Regrettably, one of the countries of its origin and spread is in India's neighborhood. We agreed that the international community must act with resolve and determination against terror networks and states that harbor them.
Mr. Prime Minister, on my visit, I will also pay my respect at the sites of terror attacks which claimed the lives of both of our peoples. Israel and India are threatened by terror because we uphold the values of freedom.
Earlier in the day, President Rivlin was received by President Pranab Mukherjee and Prime Minister Narendra Modi at Rashtrapati Bhavan. He also paid tribute to Mahatma Gandhi at Rajghat. During his 8-day visit, Rivlin is also scheduled to visit Mumbai to participate in a memorial ceremony for the 6 Jews who were killed during the 26/11 terror attacks. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And more international news now. Vladimir Putin spoke with the US President-elect Donald Trump for the first time on Monday, with the Russian president keen to emphasize the potential for bilateral cooperation. While many world leaders watched the US election result with confusion and horror, Russia hopes the Trump presidency will mean less lecturing from the West and a freer hand to act as it pleases in Ukraine and Syria. According to Kremlin summary of the phone call, Putin said he was ready for a dialogue of partnership with the new administration based on the principles of equality, mutual respect and non-interference in the internal affairs of each other. A statement from Trump's transition team said Putin offered congratulations on winning a historic election. The statement further added, and I quote, during the call, the two leaders discussed a range of issues, including the threats and challenges facing the United States and Russia, strategic economic issues, and the historical US-Russia relationship that dates back over 200 years. Meanwhile, President Barack Obama said Trump had told him he remained committed to a strong NATO. And it's time for some sports news now in Sports Beat. 8-year-old Tajamul Islam scripted history at the World Kickboxing Championship in Italy as she became the first Indian player ever from the sub-junior category to clinch a gold medal. In 5 days, Tajamul won 6 games, grabbing eyeballs across the globe. She defeated a rival from the United States to become the world champion in kickboxing. Opener KL Rahul was added to India's squad for the second cricket test against England starting November 17th in Visakhapatnam. The BCCI said Rahul has fully recovered from his right hamstring injury and joining the squad. Rahul is currently playing in the Ranji Trophy for Karnataka and scored 75 of 85 balls and 106 of 132 balls against Rajasthan in an ongoing match. World number 1 Andy Murray began his ATP World Tour Finals campaign with a convincing win in London. Murray won his opening group game 6-3, 6-2 against Croatia's Marin Cilic to register his 20th victory in a row. Both Murray and Djokovic are vying for the year-end number 1 spot. Djokovic had won his opener against Dominic Thiem on Sunday. New Zealand have confirmed Shane Jurgensen as a full-time bowling coach through to the 2019 World Cup after employing the Australian on an interim basis since February. The former Bangladesh coach will have his second stint in the role, having been the Black Caps' bowling coach from 2008 to 2010. The Kiwis will open their 2-test series against Pakistan in Christchurch on Thursday. Well, that's it on this edition of the News Tonight. Good night.